Yeah, Bryan, I'm so pleased to be back. As you know, like I'm always kind of busy with something or other. So
Hmm.
yeah, I've got like a music video in production, and I'm working with Pedro Augusto Almeida. He's a highly acclaimed Portuguese filmmaker,
Hmm.
and he filmed me like all day, like in a studio, and then out of a studio at a place called Sende, with Portugal Sende, which is a co-working space.
Hmm.
And I met the people that ran there, and we were out like in a forest, and so they were filming me in the forest. And my song, by the way, is Mother Nature rap. And so I'm actually pictured in Mother Nature in a wood, like rapping and singing. And then we finished it all in the dark, like in the evening, like they had like lighting. And so I'm dancing and rapping and to the camera. And then we finished the whole thing with a video projection behind me, a psychedelic projection. And the director, Pedro, he wanted me to put my arms up like this. So I'm doing that.
Hmm.
And that was like the closing scene. But I haven't seen, what they've done with it. But basically what's happening is that they're editing all this together,
Hmm.
and it should be ready for the 21st of March,
Yeah.
which is actually my birthday. And it's also the first day of spring, the vernal
Wow.
equinox. And I just thought that was a good day for this to actually go out. So the release for Mother Nature rap will be then. But that's my most exciting thing on the go.
Hmm.
But I always have like lots of things on the go. I've also got like a butterfly book, which is in production. And this book will be going out later this year. And it's called The Magic of Butterflies and Moths. So I'm quite excited about that as well, because it's all been approved, and basically the text has all been gone through, and we're just deciding on the cover now, and I'm collecting endorsements. So that's something else on the go.
Wow.
And I've got, I think maybe you even know about this, I've got a song, Time for Ocean Aid. And that song, there was a recording made of it, which I recorded it over here.
Hmm.
I sent it to my friend Crumb in Cardiff in Wales. And Crumb used to be in Hawkwind. So that's his claim to fame, if you like. But he's also been in various other bands. He's in a band called Star Rats at the moment. Anyway, Crumb is known for being a synthesizer player. He's a synth wizard, if you like, okay? So he dubbed some synthesizer and some piano onto my song, which was recorded here, which is basically just like an acoustic song. And somebody else in his band, Daz, has made like a video to go with this. So it's a kind of, I don't know what you call it, it's like a kind of a synth wave, folk, psychedelic protest song, possibly. And we have a video of that, and that's out, and that's had some really good reviews. And as you now know, I'm following that with Mother Nature rap, which again, also Crumb is on that as well. He added synthesizer to it.
Hmm.
And that was, if you like, a link to why we had like a psychedelic background at the end of all this. And it's very psychedelic. It's got me doing all this kind of dancing, and I'm looking completely psych. I've got a psychedelic shirt on and a strange coat, and it's going like, I think, like maybe as psychedelic as we can get it. But also, as I say, filmed in different locations and in the forest, and it's whatever Pedro and his team put together now, for the final edit, and how this is going to look. So that's going to be that's very exciting to me. But those are the main things like on the go at the moment.
That's excellent. And you know what? Me and my excitement, I'm an excitable person. Got to tell everybody we're talking with Steve Andrews, the Bard of Ely. Again, this time, Steve. First time when we spoke with Steve, he was telling. We asked that question: where does all the plastic go? So you guys make sure you check out that video. And this time we're going to be speaking to Steve about pyramids, ancient civilizations. Let's see, I got my notes here. What the I said the Guanche, how you pronounce that?
The Guanches.
Guanches people. And then there's another one, what is it, how do you pronounce that? The Tenerife?
Well, the island, Tenerife.
Tenerife, yeah.
Tenerife, but then, if you're Portuguese or Spanish, you say Tenerife. And also, which I found out when I was living on Tenerife, some of the people over there say the Guanches, because they pronounce the GU as a W sound.
Understood.
But, that's a kind of variation in Spanish because, in fact, there's a whole, I learned, or rather I tried to learn Spanish before I went to live there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found that, the Spanish I had learned wasn't actually correct for the way that they actually speak in the Canary Islands. And talking about the GUA sound,
Mm-hmm.
they have buses in Tenerife and other Canary Islands that they call Wawa, which is GUA, and you pronounce that Wawa. And that's like a really weird word because it's not really Spanish. I don't know what it is, but when you live there, you get used to all this kind of stuff, and you get used to like going on a Wawa.
Just thinking, oh, sorry about that. I was just thinking, Spanish word for water. Isn't that like what we would say aqua, but I think they say agua. Yeah,
agua.
but yeah.
Agua. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I think they say agua, something like that. Yeah.
Agua, yeah, and it's the same in Portuguese, agua.
Understood. Now, Steve, you have an interesting background. Mind explaining what you got going on back there?
Yeah, okay. You can see you can see behind me like a pyramid construction, and you can also see right in the background maybe. Can you see like a white peak of a mountain?
Yes.
And you can also see like palm trees and stuff. Well, where this actually was a place. The name of the road is the Camino de la Suerte, which is basically the pathway or the road of the luck. La Suerte is luck. And it's just outside a small seaside village, which is called Playa de San Marcos, which is where I was living. And I came across this pyramid within the second day of living there. I just went walking about in my neighborhood. And I went down this little kind of side road, and there was banana plantations, which this is actually in. And then I saw this pyramid thing kind of looming over it all. I thought, wow, look at that. And that was how I discovered that particular pyramid. And so this pyramid is in, as I say, it's off the road, Camino de la Suerte, which is near Playa de San Marcos. And it's in a banana plantation, which is owned by a farmer. And that is actually something quite strange about a lot of the pyramids in Tenerife, that they're on like farmland or where, so they're not really protected. And which brings me to another matter that I discovered, and that's like that's a pyramid, as I say, that's on farmland, and so anybody could walk along that road and see it. It's thought, and I'm pretty sure this is also correct, that there used to be lots of these constructions on the island, but they've been destroyed because people, they had a farm and for whatever reason, they didn't want this thing in the way, or maybe somebody wanted to make a road through somewhere, or maybe they wanted to make a shopping center, or whatever they wanted to do. They got rid of these constructions which were there. Wow. So I think the island has lost like a lot of these pyramid constructions. But, and these were the first ones I found out about, on the other side of the island, there is a place called the Ethnographic Park of Guimar, or Weimar, and Guimar is a big town, or maybe it's a city, I'm not sure. But anyway, it's on the other side of the island, and Thor Heyerdahl, who was very famous for being, he was a Norwegian explorer, and he was famous for a raft called the Kon-Tiki, which he sailed across the ocean, which you may have heard about. Anyway, the story is that Thor Heyerdahl had heard about there were these pyramid constructions on Tenerife in a newspaper which came out from Tenerife. So he went over to the island and he went to see these pyramid constructions in Guimar. And he thought, yeah, these are real. These are like step pyramids that he'd seen elsewhere on his travels in the world. And he was so fascinated with the whole thing that he actually moved there. So Thor Heyerdahl moved to Tenerife and he lived the last decade of his life in Guimar. And he befriended a guy called Fred Olsen. Fred Olsen, very wealthy man, he runs the ferries between the islands, the Canary Islands. And the pyramids at that stage, which were on this land in Guimar, were, as I was saying, they were not protected. In fact, there were talks about developing the land or whatever. But he got Fred Olson to put down a lot of money, and they bought the land with the pyramids on it. And then they built what they call the ethnographic park. So I freely admit it's all been cleaned up. This is not as it was, but the constructions are as it was. So there were these 6 pyramid constructions there. They're still there. They've built like pathways around there and a garden section and even like a little cinema where you can see a film about Thor Heyerdahl and a gift shop and a restaurant and all this stuff you'd expect for a kind of a visitor's center. But anyway, what happened with me is I went to that visitor center at the ethnographic park, and I went to do my little walk around the pyramids, and I saw all that, and that was my introduction to the pyramids at Tenerife and the Guanches. And the whole thing about the Guanches is that there were, and it's an ongoing debate. On the one side, there were the people who say the Guanches made these pyramids. Then on the other side of the debate, and the archaeologists are saying this, because there's a professor of archaeology, and he says, no, that they're not real pyramids at all. They were piles of stones that the Spanish farmers put there when they were clearing their land. And he sticks with this opinion because he's an archaeology professor. People say, oh, well, he's an archaeology professor, he would know. And so that must be what it is. But then when you actually see these constructions, you think, oh, wow, that's a pile of stones, it doesn't look like it. It looks like, it's got step levels.
Yeah, it looks like step pyramids, yes. Yeah.
You could have spent weeks or something putting it together, And I've taken people to see some of these pyramids, and they haven't known anything about them. And they're going, oh, wow, look at that. I didn't know there was anything like this. And so the average person seeing one is not going to say, oh, that's just a pile of stones the farmers threw. It doesn't kind of add up.
Right.
But as I say, because this man is an archaeology professor, Professor Gasper, his name is, that people will agree with him because he's well known as an academic. So that's the ones. And then there's another side to all this, which is that the Freemasons made these pyramid constructions. But no one has really has come forward to say yes, the Freemasons did it. And there
Steve,
been like a lot of debate about when were they made, and we don't really know when they were made. But
Steve, who were the original inhabitants? Didn't those people? They said they were Berbers. They said it might have been Berber people who originally came there. You know anything about that?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. There was this general mystery about who were the Guanches and how did they get there. And part of the mystery was because these people were white people. People were saying, well, it's near Africa, the Canary Islands are near Africa. Wouldn't the people have been like black people, if they come from Africa? And in fact, what is happening today is you do get immigrants from Africa coming over in boats, and that's another problem. Like the illegal immigrants coming on boats, and they're black people, and they come from Africa. And so the idea that people coming from Africa to have gone there being white people didn't make that much sense for some people. But, and this is an important but, there were a lot of white people known as the Berber people who live in North Africa, in Libya and in Ethiopia and some of the other, the northern parts of Africa. And so what a lot of, again, academic people were saying that the Guanches were descendants of the Berbers, and the Berbers people are white. And it is thought that they come from Libya. That was more or less decided upon by the academics, that the Guanches are descendants of the Berbers from Libya. But then the question then is, well, how did they get there? And that has never really been answered so that everybody is going to agree on it, because the Guanches didn't have any boats. Right. And the Guanches the only records that we've got of how the Guanches actually lived and were and what they believed and whatever, were told by the Catholics who were the people who conquered them. So the Spanish conquerors basically kept the records of whatever they wanted to say about the Guanches. And the story is very similar to what happened in Central America and South America, is that in this case, the Spanish went there and they found these Guanche people there, and they wanted to convert them to Catholicism, or they wanted to kill them or make slaves of them or whatever. And so they wanted to basically destroy their culture, which they effectively did, but it took them a long time. And because what happened with the Guanches retreated into the mountains, which they knew, and so they weren't so easy to just, basically invade and conquer. And there's a lot of stories about all that, but what I'm trying to say is that the only real record we have of them historically as records is what the Spanish, the conquerors actually wrote. But
so they're extinct now?
Yeah, sorry.
The people, they're extinct now? I mean, been fully assimilated, I guess, by now.
Yes, that happened. But I mean, obviously the bloodline as such, because, the Guanche women were kind of ended up kind of married to the Spanish conquerors. Forcibly or however,
right.
But basically, children were born of this union, so that there were people who still carry the Guanche, the genes, the bloodline. Some of these may live on the Canary Islands. Some of them live. We don't really know. I mean, it was never really something that was kind of kept a record of. But it is also caused, some people, in the Canary Islands, to say, "Oh, we are Guanches," or we have the Guanche bloodline, or what. We don't really know. But what we do know is that there were different Guanches peoples living on the different islands. And what we also do know is they didn't have any boats, so there was no communication between one island and another. We do also know that, a lot of people are trying to say that the Guanches were white people, and also that they had blonde hair and blue eyes. This is not true. Some of them might have had blue eyes and blonde hair, but a lot of them also had brown eyes and dark hair, and were Mediterranean peoples. So this idea about them, I mean, there's even this idea that they were Vikings, that, Scandinavians with blonde hair and blue eyes, they got there somehow. That one's almost been thrown out. There was another, a theory that they're actually Atlanteans, that they were survivors of the Atlanteans that happened to be living on the Canary Islands, which is all that was left, that they're the mountains, That's another idea. That idea has almost been thrown out as well. Oh, wow. And the idea which is held the most sort of ground is that they were descendants of the Berbers. How they got there has not been established. There is the theory that the Romans brought them there. And that's got a lot of following on that. A lot of people think, yes, okay, that's what happened. The Romans brought these Berber people there and left them on the islands. Why they left them on the islands, we don't know. What relationship they had to them, we don't know. But that is one of the answers to how they got there.
It seemed like the time frame may be off with that Roman theory, hypothesis, whatever. Let me see. All of this supposedly took place about 1,000 years before Christ, or something like that. Is there any dating, or anybody tried to date those step pyramids to see perhaps when they were constructed?
Yeah, that's part of the problem, that people have tried to date these pyramids. And there was a piece of pottery. I mean, this is it's an ongoing, it depends who you talk to almost. A piece of pottery was found on one level of one of these pyramids in the Guimar Ethnographic Park. But, and so what they were saying is, because this piece of pottery was found, that it means that the pyramids must have been made after the date of this piece of pottery, The argument against that is that there were actually other levels below where this piece of pottery was found, and so it doesn't really prove anything. And it was only the one particular pyramid which was investigated. Right. Now the Philip Coppens, who you may have heard of, he was involved with the Ancient Aliens, the TV series. Philip was an author. Philip passed away some years ago, so we can't actually consult Philip right now, but I knew him, and he came over to the islands. And he was also, well, actually, he's got a lot of books out, but He did write about me, and he wrote about the Tenerife Pyramids and some other constructions that I showed him over there. And he thought that they were authentic. He went to the Guimar Ethnographic Park, and he had some discussion with somebody there who was basically saying, well, I'm just trying to explain to you that the investigations that had been done didn't prove that they were made in the 19th century or after, that they could have been made before then. And they, Thor Heyerdahl and Fred Olsen and the people that were in charge of the Ethnographic Park, if you go there and you paid your fee to go in, you can go and walk around, explore the place. They have like question mark symbols, by an information plaque. So basically, they're not saying for sure. They're not saying, look, the Guanches definitely made these constructions you're seeing. They're saying, yes, there is a debate, and you make up your own mind. And so we put this question mark there.
Understood. Tell me something, Steve. Is there any of the remnants of the language of those people? Because I figured if you can look at their language, you may see similarities from some other type of people. Like they said they were Berbers, then there may be some connection or similarities between the languages. You know anything about that?
Yes, I do actually. Yeah, there is a similarity between the languages from North Africa, and there's also some of the place names which are in Tenerife. For example, Tacaronte, that is a Guanche word, and there's actually a lot of investigation, if you like, has been done about the Guanche language, the words, and the links with North African Berber people. Even the word that I started talking to you about the wawa, a bus, right? Yeah, that is believed to have come from Guanche, the Guanche language, and the whole thing is basically kind of none of it's been like established. We can't say for sure, yes, this is how they got there. This is how they spoke. This is what they did. It's all very much tied up in being like a mystery. But for me, when I'm just trying to go back to me, like when I first moved to Tenerife, I found out about this, and I was, because I'm like a lot of people, I didn't know there were pyramids on Tenerife. I thought, yes, there's pyramids in Egypt, those are the famous ones, and then there are some step pyramids elsewhere in the world, and I've heard about them, but I didn't know about these pyramids in Tenerife. And like what became important for me was, as I said earlier, that yes, sure, Fred Olsen and Thor Heyerdahl, they bought this ethnographic park, they constructed that, they owned the land, and they tidied all that up. What I found out was that there were other pyramids, like this one you can see behind me, in other parts of the island that had not been tidied up, and that you didn't have to pay an admission fee to go into the ground to see them. You could just go there and find them if you knew where they were. And some of them are as impressive, if not more impressive, than the ones in the ethnographic park in Guimar. There's a little village called Santa Barbara, and there were several of these pyramid constructions there, and there's one which is really big, and again, it's in some farmland. And so when I first went there, I was like, wow, look at these, and so what I'm saying is that there are pyramids you can see for free in Tenerife, and there are pyramids you can pay to see in the ethnographic park in Guimar. And the ones in the ethnographic park in Guimar get publicity because, there were flyers printed with come to see the ethnic, all this kind of stuff, and tourists go there. And then there are these other ones that people don't really know about unless they happen to live in the area or that they're like me, they're particularly interested and they go to find out.
Yeah, two questions on Steve. When you said that the other ones are more impressive, in what way are they more impressive?
Well, size-wise, I mean, I don't know if I can't really. Actually, if you Google all this, you will actually find like photos that I've shared, and I did like an article for Ancient Origins website, and the article was called. I scribbled this down. Yeah, if you Google Ancient Origins, Steve Andrews and the Mystery of the Guanches and Pyramids of Tenerife.
Okay.
I think I shared photos in there of the Santa Barbara pyramid.
We'll add this to the video later.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. There's also I'm just going to say that the people who live in Santa Barbara know about this, and there is a cake shop there, which has got, the name of it is to do with pyramids. And if you get a bus and you travel through this village of Santa Barbara, you can see one of this big pyramid. If you look out the bus, you just, oh, look at that over there. So they're not that difficult to find, but if you know that they're there, but most people don't know anything about this. And if you go to the south of and Tenerife is like a strange place, because it's almost like two islands in one, which people don't realize this. That if you're a tourist, if you come from the UK, or maybe if you come from Germany or any of the European countries that go there, the airlines as such funnel you to go down to the south, to the tourist resorts. There's a big tourist resort, Las Americas and Los Cristianos on the coast in the south. And it's basically, the reasoning is that it's hot and dry, and you get a lot of sun down there, and there's beaches down there, and this is what tourists want. Fair enough.
Right.
So there's a lot of bars down there and tourist establishments down there, and that's where most people go. Like most holiday makers, say from Britain, they go down the south to these tourist resorts. And if you do that, you don't hear anything about the ethnographic park of Weimar, which is much further up on the island. And you also don't see a lot of, the kind of the countryside you can see here in this photo of me. You can't see that. You don't see it with the banana plantations, and you don't see much of you see Mount Adie, because you can see that from everywhere on the island. But what happens if you go to the north of the island? The climate's very different. They have far more rain up there. There's far more like farmland, and there's a lot of mountain. There are cloud forests up there, which are like really weird. I mean, the cloud forests. You can travel literally half an hour on a bus from a hot, sunny place on the coast, get out in the cloud forests, and it's quite cold, and your clothing gets like wet very quickly because the cloud is so thick, and you can't see very far because the cloud is so thick, and the trees have all got like lichens and mosses growing on them, and the floor is all green and ferns and stuff, and it's like what I'm trying to say is that people from the south of Tenerife don't know anything about that. People who go to the tourist resorts. And so what I discovered when I was living there was that if you jump on the bus, you can travel around the island, and you can find all kinds of amazing locations there. And it changes like very dramatically from one place to another. So there are what you call microclimates, a lot of different microclimates. And the north of the island is very different to the south, is what I'm trying to say. And so I went out like investigating, and I used to write for various Tenerife newspapers, and also for a Tenerife magazine at one point. And so like I used to get my stories by just getting on the bus, go somewhere, and take some pictures of it, find out about it, and write that up. So for me, it was amazing. It was like a completely like magical island with so much amazing stuff to look into. And but getting back to the Guanches, there was a lot that is known about them. They were known that they lived in caves a lot of the times, and that they were hunter-gatherer people basically. They also did some basic farming. They had various domestic animals, and they moved about on the islands. They also had a system whereby like one area of the island was for one lot of Guanches, another area was almost like a tribal system, that they had like different territories. They had like people who was in charge of each tribe as such, was called a mense. So they had like these different areas around the island. I presume that they used to trade amongst themselves. And they moved about the islands, and they were mainly hunter-gatherers.
Right.
They used to live in caves, which was, in a way, one of the only places they could live there, because they didn't have, this is really important, they didn't have access to metal, because it's a volcanic island. The Canary Islands are all volcanoes, and there was no metal there. So they didn't have iron. They didn't have, so it's been said that the Guanches were like Stone Age people. In some ways they were, because they had to be. They didn't have any metal, so they couldn't, they didn't have anything you could make with metal. So they only had stones and wood. But they had, they did make pottery. And they also, something I talk about is that they did understand kind of geometric patterns. They had things which were called pintaderas, which were a stamp, like a seal, that was put on drying clay on a grain store, where they had, like, wheat or some type of cereal. They had a store of this. They would stamp that with a pintadera. Some of the pintaderas were in the shape of a pyramid, like a triangle. And they were known to make pottery, and they also made pottery beads. They used to wear like bead necklaces and stuff. And they also did embalming, which is a kind of a link to the other pyramid building,
Egypt, yeah.
Like, and they also did trepanification of the head. They used to drill into the skull.
Oh, no way. Like lobotomy or something, I'm sure for a different purpose, yeah.
Yeah, well, again, there's a lot of information about that. Why did people drill holes in their head, Yeah. Was it to let a demon out, or was it to increase their, we don't really know.
Exactly. And Steve, before we go on, that's this pyramid. I know you said that the other pyramids, you said they're more impressive. Was it in the construction of it, or was it the size of them?
The size, because I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to tell your viewers, and I've told people this as well, that there are, like, pyramid constructions on Tenerife, which are terrible. They're a really bad example. If you're trying to sell the idea of pyramids on Tenerife that the Guanches made and all this, if you show them like a really impressive one, you can say, oh, wow, look at that. Yes, that must have spent a lot of time making that. These people obviously knew what they were. There are also like really small constructions, which, in fact, there's a place called Santo Domingo. And there's one of these very small pyramids there. And I only found it because what had happened with me, I'd become like really excited about the mystery of pyramids, if you like. And so I'm looking out for these things, and I'm on a bus, and I look out the window the one day, and I thought, oh, look at that. There's a pyramid down in this land, like down from, the road where the bus is on. And so for me, it was a pyramid, but it's really small. But having said that it's really small, it's also got a kind of like a ramp going up it, like something you could climb up. And part of why I say that it was authentic is because some of the other pyramids, including the ones in the Guimar Ethnographic Park, have got like little staircase, like a ramp to go up. And the idea was, and again, we don't know for sure, but the idea was that say midsummer solstice, that you could have like some kind of a ritual or ceremony on there, and a person could go up the steps to meet the sun, if you like, on the platform at the top. So they did have these kind of stepped staircases on these constructions. But what I'm really getting to is that this one in Santo Domingo, it's small. It's not very, you could say, yes, it's got levels to it. It's a step pyramid. Yes, it's got some kind of a little staircase going up it. But size-wise, it's terrible. I mean, you could fit it in this room where I am easily.
Oh, that's small.
Yeah, that's small. So, so that's not very impressive. But if you see like this one in Santa Barbara that I'm talking about, it's big. And you can see it from the road, and it's over there in this field, in this farmer's field. You can see it, look at that, and it's big. So the size thing, to me, is part of why they would be impressive or not. But also, Also, you can see actually this one behind me. This is quite big, you know.
Yeah. How big would you say those steps are? I mean, if a person stood up there, would you be able to? Yeah.
Yeah, like from one level to another is not that, you know, it's not that, you know, big really. Steps aren't big, the construction is. And why I'm trying to say that the construction doesn't really hold up as a pile of stones. I mean, okay, the small one in Santo Domingo, it's like a pile of stones that's had a lot of work done to it, put levels to it. But if you see some of these really big ones, they're like, even if they, and I've thought about this, I've thought, okay, maybe we had some Spanish farmers back whenever, and they were trying to clear their land, and they had like a team of workmen working. They said, all right, you know, today we want you to get rid of all this here, and we want you to make a pile of stones over there.
Right.
You know,
I doubt if they would do it in a step fashion. Seemed like it'd be more of a heap, you know.
Yeah, it would be really rough. You wouldn't have like all these
exactly
like a plateau, a flat piece at the top.
Yeah,
you know, I can't see that happening. But the other, and this is a part of the problem, is that with all of them, there's been so much wear and tear over the years that some of them have got like the sides falling away, or they've got plants and bushes and stuff growing in them, and so
that would lend to it looking rough.
Yeah, we can't see what they were like originally. There's no way we can do that. And why I try to say that I think Fred Olson and Thor Heyerdahl said, you know, obviously they had a team of workmen working for them, and they could say, now, we want you now to tidy this construction up here. We want like the sides to be nice and neat, and we don't want any weeds and plants growing all over it, and so make the top like really flat. And, you know, I'm sure that they were cosmetically enhanced by, you know, workmen they had working for them. But so, you know, in some ways, I think you can get a better reality, if you like, by going to see these untouched ones in a farmer's field, like this one behind me. You can see like that. And if it still stands up as something which is really impressive, and you can see definite levels to it, that to me is more evidence, if you like, of it being an authentic pyramid construction.
And you know, so now, Steve, just so happens last night I was watching Apocalypto, one by Mel Gibson, and you know, he's talking about the stepped the pyramids. You know, I know you've seen it. Yeah, they're rolling their heads down the pyramids. Yeah, when you were talking about the stepped pyramids, that came to mind. Now, yeah, another thing I wanted to talk to you about. This place that who was it, Homer or Plato or somebody way back in the days talking about the city of Atlantis, and from what I was reading in videos, it seemed to think that Atlantis may have been in Spain somewhere, or perhaps near the Canary Islands or something. You know anything about that?
Oh wow, yeah. Yeah, I mean that's like a massive subject, but I think I mentioned earlier that some people thought that the Guanches were actually descendants of the Atlanteans, and that, you know, they survived because they were on these mountains, which would have been the peaks of Atlantis as it was. But that idea more or less got thrown out. But what did happen for me is when I first went to Tenerife, and I found out about the Guanches and pyramids and stuff, I also found out, because I started Googling and looking online for what can I find out about all this. And I came across a guy called Professor Mauricio dos Santos. And he had an Atlantean site, and he became like an expert on Atlantis with a completely new theory. Anyway, I started corresponding with Mauricio. And again, sadly, he's no longer with us. So we can't consult him, but we can consult his site. If you want to have a look at his website, which has recently been, completely like reformatted, because it had problems. The site got hacked, and a lot of it went down, but it's all being put together, and it's a wonderful site. It's called atlan.org. If you Google that, just atlan.org, you will find this site. It's about Atlantis. Professor Santos, I came across him, as I say, and I started talking to him like email-wise, and I found him because I was looking for stuff on the Guanches, and he'd written about the Guanches. And he is not saying, he's not saying at all that that Atlantis is in Europe, in any of the place. What he's saying is it's in. Okay, what Professor Santos was saying is Atlantis definitely existed, and if you wanted to find it today, it's under the South China Sea and Indonesia. And what is Indonesia today was what is left of what would have been Atlantis, the continent. And what he said was that, because you mentioned Plato, what he said was that what Plato had written was true, but it was misinterpreted. People got the wrong idea. So they were looking in the wrong part. So the reason that nobody's ever found Atlantis and said, this is it, and we can prove it, and you know, it's peer reviewed, and everybody's saying, yes, okay, that couldn't be done because they were all looking in the wrong place. And so it wasn't in the Mediterranean, it wasn't Crete, it wasn't any of these places that have been, you know, put forward as where it was. It was the South China Sea and all the islands which now make up what we call Indonesia. And what he says is it went in about 11,600 years ago, which was the end of the Ice Age. And Professor Santos thought that there were like massive volcanic eruptions which went on, which caused a tsunami, which went completely like all over the place, like really massive tsunami, and it drowned that land, which was Atlantis. And what he thought as well was that the India basically, India would have been almost like a colony of the Atlanteans because it was next to it, okay? And so we have like what are known as the Vedas. I'm sure you know about, you know, the Vedic, the Vedas, which became like the basics for the Hindu religion and all of that stuff, and the deities, which are the Vedic deities. These books were believed to be like some of the oldest texts that exist, the Vedas, yeah? And so what Professor Santos was saying is that, yes, that was all written, and this was like a colony of what was Atlantis, which went under. And he also thought that there were like other colonies around, but the world was so completely devastated with not only the tsunami, but also the volcanic cloud which went up and which darkened, you know, the skies. So most stuff died. Okay?
So a nuclear winter. I mean, not nuclear winter, volcanic winter,
volcanic, really bad.
Right.
And so that anybody that survived all that had to then kind of rebuild again and kind of try and explain all this again and carry on. But it was basically like world devastation. And
so,
he thought,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, he thought that the Bible story of the flood was a kind of a memory of this, and the Bible idea of the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden would have been Atlantis before the flood.
Understood. Yeah? Well, what about the epic story of Gilgamesh? I think they were
that's right, and Gilgamesh. That's right.
Yeah.
All of this stuff referred to the same thing, which was this massive flood. And so, so that was another part of like my journey, my experience. It's like I started, you know, talking to Professor Santos, and he also told me that like when he started investigating Atlantis, he didn't believe in it. He was a skeptic, and he didn't think he was going to find out it was real. He thought he was going to find out the opposite, so he could say, yeah, I'm a professor, I've investigated all this, and it's actually a lot of rubbish. He found that as he was investigating it, he became more and more convinced that it was real. And so it became, he did something like 20 to 30 years of investigations of Atlantis. Most of his findings are now on that site I told you about, atlant.org. And he also had a kind of idea that it was like really important for him, like almost like a mission, to be getting this information out to the rest of the world, because he feared that this was going to happen again. And I could understand what he was talking about, and so I've mentioned all this in my book, Saving Mother Oceans. This is where I come in on this personally, because I thought I'm sure, like, you know, what I think a lot of people know, that like if the sea levels keep rising because all the ice melts,
Mm-hmm.
the coastal cities are going under.
Oh, they're gone, yes.
And civilization as we know it is going to be like ruined, basically, if the sea
Mm-hmm.
levels go up enough and we get coastal floodings. Civilization we know it is gone. Yeah. So I've been thinking about that, and I thought, okay, it's almost like the Atlantis scenario, if you like. So I mentioned all this in my book, Saving Mother Ocean. But it's like all this stuff. For me, I have like personal connections with things because it's like I went to Tenerife. I didn't know much about Tenerife. I got there. I started to find out about pyramids and Guanches because I found out about that. I found out about Professor Santos. I get in touch with him. He tells me all this stuff, his theories about Atlantis. And it's like, all of it for me is an ongoing thing, But I cannot give anybody a definite thing and say, yes, this is for sure. And all of, the academics and the scientists all agree that this is established. Right. You can't really do that.
Yeah, the jury's still out on much of this.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, tell me something, Steve. It seems like no matter what pyramid we look at, whether these be here near the Canary Islands, the ones they have in South America, the ones they have over there in Egypt, it seems like the Egyptologists, the experts, so to speak, it seems like they all want to keep the time frame. Not like 11,000 years ago. They seem like they want to keep the time frame more recent when it seems like there's evidence that's showing that these structures are older than what these academics are putting out there and stuff. What do you think the case? Why is that the case? What do you think they're up to?
Well, I think I know exactly what you're talking about there, Bryan. And I think the idea is that they don't really want people in general to be thinking about that civilization as such has existed a lot longer than what we're taught. That's the general idea. I think that the idea is that something like 6,000 years ago, which has been called the dawn of civilization, they want the public at large and everybody basically to think, okay, civilization started around the time of the Phoenicians, and that was around 6,000 years ago. The Egyptians, we had the Romans, we had these great empires, and it's all kind of evolved from that. But there was nothing before all that.
Right.
So they don't want us talking about stuff 15,000 years, 20,000 years ago.
Yeah, there had to be something before the Samaritans. I mean, where the Samaritans came from.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit like the Egyptians. You can say, I've heard that. I'm sure you've heard this. You say, all right, so there was these Egyptians in Egypt, and they had pyramids, and they had their pharaohs, and they had all this stuff, hieroglyphics.
Right.
Were they suddenly there? Like, how did they suddenly get to be there in Egypt with all this stuff, with their headdresses and their hieroglyphics and their pyramids and all the stuff we associate with Egypt? Surely it kind of evolved over a period of time.
Right. Oh, I wanted to clear up something. I said Samaritans. I meant Sumerians. Yeah, Sumerian people. I said Samaritans. Yeah, Sumerians. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also the Carthaginians.
Right.
Some more, but I mean, they're okay. There were a lot of people, different, very big cultures around at that time. But we don't go back. The history doesn't go back much, beyond, like, I think about 6,000 years ago. And okay, maybe the Vedas, the Indian. I think that's a bit before that, but that's it.
Yeah.
So basically, what we're taught is that there was no written records, there was no history, there was no civilizations, nothing.
Now, I don't know if it's the case with the pyramids where you're at. Keep forgetting how to pronounce it. The Guanche people. Yeah, I know, like the people in Peru, I believe where it is, where they have the ruins there. A lot of the people, the inhabitants there were saying that those pyramids were there when they got there. Then I hear people in Egypt saying something similar, like the pyramids were there when they got there. And I was wondering, is the case with these pyramids where you're at? Were they there when the people got there? Are people saying that?
That's another possibility. As I said, yeah, Thor Heyerdahl and Fred Olson and I'm not saying for sure that yes, the Guanches definitely made these, and that leaves it open to it is possible that somebody else made them before the Guanches got there. That there was some other. It's basically what Thor Heyerdahl was saying, and what he, if you like, proved with his Kon-Tiki raft, was it was possible for people to cross the oceans on a raft. And he was trying to say that there was an interchange of culture and everything else by ocean-going peoples who used rafts before the ships and the boats that we know today, and even say in Roman times, that they had other ways of crossing the oceans.
Ocean currents.
Ocean currents, and rafts,
yes,
which you could, you could sail on. And so that leaves it open to saying that there were like a lot of cultures like before that were traveling around the world and there was an interchange about their belief systems and their cultures,
Right.
And we just don't really know, we don't know, like, as I said earlier, that like some stuff has been thrown out. For example, the Vikings went to the Canary Islands and settled there.
Wait a minute, that's been thrown out? Because it seems plausible, because they were seafaring people.
That's also true, because we also do know that the Vikings moved about all over. There were lots of people that moved about all over the place. And it's very difficult to get any kind of definite conclusions on that.
Steve, let's branch off to a little woo-woo, perhaps conspiracy stuff. Those pyramids, ones in Egypt and stuff, were they built by people or aliens?
I'm going to go with they were made by people.
Yeah, I looked at them. I was like looking at a video of it a few days ago, and you can see all the deterioration. But from the video I was looking at, people made that. I mean, I'm just looking at it. That looked like something that people did. I'm like, whether or not they were people from more recent times or far back, I don't know. But from looking at it, you could tell people made that. I don't think we need to bring in aliens or anything like that. Yeah.
I don't think we need any aliens, alien builders for the pyramid or for Stonehenge. It's another.
Still impressive though. Look at the size of those stones. It's incredible.
Yeah, massive. And actually, I'm just thinking about that. There's a place in Wales, in South Wales, that I know of called it's called Tinkingswood Burial Chamber, and it's got a capstone there, which is said to be the biggest capstone in Britain, and I'm sure it is. And I once took a film crew there, and the guy was leading. He's like, wow, look at that. I didn't know anything like that. He said, I didn't know anything like this existed in Britain, because it's huge. It's this huge capstone on top of this construction. And I remember thinking, like, how did the people move that? Because it's so big. You think, and then I started to, I've thought a lot about this. So basically, like Britain, which is not that big a place, it's got lots of constructions in it. Maybe Stonehenge is the most famous, but then you've got also the Avebury stones, but there were like stone circles and standing stones, and if you like, all over Britain. Up in Scotland, on some of the islands in Scotland, and all over Ireland, and all over Wales, and so. You must have had like a lot of people working on these constructions, and they moved very, very big stones.
Seemed like with relative ease.
And also the people can't do it today. I remember this going back some years. They tried to move only one stone from the Preseli Mountains in West Wales. Yeah, they were going to try and move that to the Stonehenge area to show it could be done, with ropes and pulleys and whatever. And they failed. I think they got it as far as Milford Haven Dock, and it went in the water, and that was the end of it. And that was with modern people, with modern technologies and all this, they couldn't do it. But we're led to believe that somehow or other, long ago, primitive people were able to move these huge rocks in West Wales, move them right across the country, take them right over to Stonehenge, and to erect them.
Yeah, then pile them straight up. Incredible.
Yeah, they could do all that.
So are you, so is it safe to say you're the mindset that civilization is on the rebound? Instead of us progressing, to this technological, stay where we at now, you think maybe we had some technology back in the days, it was destroyed, and then we had to relearn? You think that's where humanity is now?
No, I don't think. I think they did it by brute force. Really, I think what actually happened was that they had a lot of people, workers, and they did it with. With labor, with hands-on, right? They've obviously had some kind of leader, a tribal leader, and they'd say, all right, what we want, we need this done, or I need you to take this and bring that and put the. However, they had some kind of leaders, and maybe these leaders were like some kind of shaman, or maybe they were like some kind of a king, or whatever they were able to tell the other people, this is what we want,
Right.
And it was done by sheer hard work.
Wow.
Like if you had like a really big rock, and you had a team of workmen and you said, like, I want this rock moved from here, and it's got to be moved to there, and then I want you to dig a hole and put that rock in it.
Correct.
Then you would have had like a lot of men working on it. You would have had a lot of time spent doing it, and they would have just done it somehow or other, physically. I think it was all done physically. I don't think it was done with any kind of, advanced alien technology. Or,
right.
I think it was all done, by literal, very, very hard physical work.
Incredible. Yeah, reading probably getting a lot of mixed information. I was reading about the time frame. Some of the stuff I read about the pyramids said it was generational. And then some of it said it was constructed relatively quick. And then they went through the math of saying, well, in order to erect this thing with a certain amount of stones over a certain amount of period, it said it took like about 20 years or so, which I don't believe that. That's a lot of stones, millions of stones. The place up there, I think it took a lot longer than 20 years or so. And
I would agree with you. I think a lot of time was spent like creating these constructions and stone circles and pyramids and all of it. I think it must have taken them a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had very large teams of workers, and I think they spent a long, long time putting these things together.
Yeah, I'm sure you heard the various theories about how it was done. Ramps, I'm sure you heard that one. You got any favorite ideas about how they constructed those? Because I'm thinking of like the ones behind you. I mean, I love pyramids and stuff, but those don't seem like they're made from large stones. Not like the monolithic ones,
Oh, no, Bryan, these are not made from large stones. They're made from small stones, really. On the edge, but inside the middle of that is basically just like stony earth. It's not like the whole thing is not built of rock. What I'm saying is it's built of earth with small rocks in it, and then it's got like sides and these parts you can see here as steps have got rocks put there. That kind of holds all the rest of it in place.
Understood. So it has filler inside, some kind of filler in there. There's like rubble filler on the inside, dirt and rubble.
Filler, that's right. Yeah, it's kind of rubble filler. And that's why, like, the problem is with some of them, which I've seen over the years, the wear and tear on them. Sometimes if you lose those rock kind of facing on a step, it falls away and you get like just earth and rock and rubble and
Understood.
So that's what led me to think that the ones in the YanBar Park, the ethnographic park, have been tidied up. But, if, for example, if there was any like damage to any of them, then you could have had like the workmen could have put like another flat rock there to hold that in place, and they've been tidied up, is what I'm saying. And I don't know who made them. You know, did the Guanches make them? Did somebody earlier than the Guanches made them? I don't know.
Yeah, this radiocarbon 14 dating thing, I don't know, it doesn't seem to be all of that great. You know, as far as aging, telling the age of things. I was reading in preparation or an interview, talk with you. I was reading about the weathering that they have found on the pyramids in Egypt, and the debate. Some people saying it's wind and sand caused it. Then I don't think it was Graham. Can't recall the geologist who went over there, and he looked at it and said that erosion came from water, and they figured the last time it was rains like that had to be about 11,000 years ago, which coincided with some natural catastrophe with Earth. You know anything about that?
Yeah, I was just actually, I'm saying earlier that you just said 11,000 years ago. Mm-hmm. Professor Santos was saying 11,600 years ago was when Atlantis went. That's around the same time frame. Mm-hmm. And which was also the end of the Ice Age.
Was that Younger Dryas period around all of that stuff that was going on? That's okay, yeah, but yeah, they said it was something about some Younger Dryas period where they had the Ice Age and coming down and just tearing up everything, and it said that something about kind of caused calamities all over the earth and stuff, when the Ice Age had ended and all that, and it caused flooding. And what they were saying, the pyramids, whenever the pyramids was constructed, it had to be a lot of water, they said, because of the erosion. And they said the last time they had water was around 11,000 years ago, which coincides with that tsunami thing you was talking about.
With what I was saying, yeah, with Professor Sandels's theory, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible. So with these pyramids, do you think, I know it's hard to say because we don't really know who made them and all that, but it seems like somebody had come up with another term, but I'm saying somebody had a hard-on for pyramids. It seems like everywhere you go, somebody's erecting pyramids. You think there's a connection in that, or is it just coincidence?
I know what you mean. That is basically, whoever it was, whoever the tribal leader or the king or whatever they called them, it was really important for them to get their people to build these things, mm-hmm. and it was all over the place. It wasn't just in Egypt. It was all over the world. There were people building these pyramid constructions, and elsewhere they were building these stone circles like Stonehenge. Mm-hmm. I mean, in Portugal, as you know. And there was like stone circles over here as well. Mm-hmm. So this stone circle building was another. There was a lot of work going on. We do know that there was a lot of men employed doing very hard physical labor, building pyramids, building stone circles, building. There was also like the burial mounds. I'm just talking about a burial mound in South Wales with huge capstone on it. It was a lot of hard labor going on to build all this stuff. But it must have been very important to all of the leaders for whatever tribe of people it was to get this stuff done. Right.
Now I've read that the pyramid shape is almost like low-hanging fruit when it comes to building. It's almost it's like the easiest kind of way to do it if you want to build something upwards. They said the pyramid shape is probably the easiest way to do it. They said that's probably why different people in different cultures went through the same way, because it's the simplest way to do it and stuff. I have read that, so maybe that's why we see them all over the place, pyramids like that. Now the ones that I saw in Peru, those things are also massive and they're also intricate, and I can't see how all of these people were doing it with supposedly the primitive tools that they had. How were they, shaping these stones and cutting them and stuff to such precision? I'm of the mindset that there was some kind of polymer, that these people are using some kind of concrete or something, when I look at them, because I just, I've done concrete cutting for years. So, I mean, it's not as hard as granite, but I'm familiar with cutting stuff. And, I use drills and saws and stuff like that. And just to look at the work they done, the precision is just amazing. They're supposed to have done that with copper tools. And
yeah, I'm just thinking about some of the stuff like in Peru, and some of the stuff at very, very high altitude as well. So whoever were building these things were not building them like on a low level. They were building with like low, difficult to breathe possibly, and still, managing to construct incredible constructions. Yeah. It's like the more you look at this stuff, the more incredible it becomes. So you had, all this time, long, long ago, we had people in different parts of the world building amazing constructions.
Yeah, you spoke on a couple of things. You mentioned in the Bible one time. Well, first of all, when we started talking, you mentioned the pyramid that's behind you and how it's somewhat similar to the mountains that are behind you. And then I was thinking about the biblical story about the Tower of Babel, how they tried to build this gigantic structure, to reach to the heavens.
Oh, right. To build it up to heaven. And then God got, didn't like that. He got annoyed. So
right.
He confounded the Tower of Babel and the languages so that people couldn't come together anymore to put a plan like this together.
Now imagine that structure was made out of stone. I don't think they built a wood structure that high. So they probably was trying to build some type of pyramid too. I'm not certain how that tower would look. But yeah, it seemed to be the thing to build, like these large structures. There's like a commonality and stuff that runs throughout man. And it's hard for me to think that they're not connected in some way. I just can't see all these large structures being built at all these different places all around the world, and perhaps roughly the same time. It seems a little bit more than coincidence. Seems like it had to be the same people, or perhaps they went around influencing people.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, these pyramids in the Canary Islands, there are like similar pyramids in various other places. I think like Mauritius is one place, and also Sicily, I think, is another. And if you go there, they've got pyramids that look very similar to the ones in Tenerife. And so it was happening like in a lot of places, these pyramids were being built.
Now, there was no need for a step type of pyramid for agriculture, was there? Because when I'm looking at the one behind you, it looked like, you can grow things on those various levels. There's no need for that where you're at, though. Don't they have flat land where they can grow stuff?
Yeah, I have actually heard like a theory on that. The idea is that because you have this kind of flat plateau part at the top, you could grow like something like pumpkins, for example, on that. And you could. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying, well, you could do that.
Right.
But you could also just grow those things on the flat.
Yeah.
Without doing all that. And that is done. Like if you go to Tenerife, you can see, pumpkins growing on flat land.
Right.
You can see even in this picture, maybe you can see.
Yeah.
This is a banana plantation.
Yeah, so it's not so mountainous that they have to build some kind of terraced thing like that. So they have flat land where they can grow things.
Yeah, they go. But having said that, there are also terraced areas.
Oh.
Okay. And some of it, in fact, Santa Barbara I was talking about earlier, a lot of the farmland there is also terraced. And it's impressively terraced. With like big walls, stone walls, dividing one part from another. And so you do have all that. But then you have like flat areas within one section, another section. You have like a flat area that today mostly they grow bananas. They also had like a water carrying system, which still exists to some degree. That you had like channels, which had got concrete. I don't know when concrete was first invented or anything, but basically they were like old concrete water channels from one terrace to another.
Yeah, I don't know about concrete either, but I know the Romans had concrete, so it's been around a while. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of work was done. A lot of work was done.
Yeah, so many mysteries, and I'm glad there's people trying to get to the bottom of it. But it seems like, there's a lot of people who don't want to get to the bottom, and that's what I keep coming to that. I don't know, is there a conspiracy? Well, I don't know, and I hate coming up with conspiracy theories, but it does seem like there's people who don't want us to know things. And I'm wondering, what's all the secrecy about? I mean, why? Because to me, it's like a no-brainer. We have these mysteries. Why not try to find out? Why not be as open-minded as possible? But it seems like that's being frowned upon by mostly academics, I believe.
Oh, I totally agree with you, Bryan, because if you like, all this Tenerife Pyramids, it comes into that, into that kind of way of thinking, basically, because, as I said earlier, that we have an archaeology professor that says that they're piles of stones, and because he's an archaeology professor, everyone's going to agree with him. It's, oh, well, that's it, the piles of stones. And it's frustrating that you can't really get much further than that. And if you do go further than that, then it's not considered like real. It's not considered. It's just a theory, or it's conspiracy theory, or it's delusion, or whatever. It's not something that everyone can say, yes, this is what really happened. And people like me. I mean, I'm somebody who is. I'm an investigative person. I want to find out about things. And if you like, for me, it started when I was a child. I think I've talked to you before about when I was a child, I discovered nature. So I wanted to find out about all this stuff, which for me is amazing. I don't kind of stop with just, about the plants and animals on this planet, about this is amazing. I want to find out about all this other stuff. So if you put me in a place with something like this pyramid construction behind me, I'm like, what is this about? And then I try to find out, and I end up in a mystery. I end up with people saying, oh, Professor Gasper says, oh, it's piles of stones. And then somebody else says, no, it was built by the Guanches. And so I can't get a definite answer about some of these mysteries. But I am somebody who investigates the mysteries of life, I think is what it comes down to. And I'm just thinking actually about Professor Santos, who I'm just going to show, this is his book, by the way. Oh, this is...
Is there a lot of green in that?
Mystery in itself, now, I can't see.
Yeah, still, yeah, I see. Right there, right there. Perfect.
Okay. He told me that, and oh, by the way, he was a professor of nuclear physics, and his, he had a whole lot of stuff, a fantastic academic background. He's very impressive in nuclear physics. He told me that when he became convinced about Atlantis and started publishing all this stuff on Atlantis, the other academics were frowning upon this. They couldn't agree with that. It was like letting the side down completely with this Atlantis stuff. But he carried on anyway. So it was almost like he had like a divided career. He had like his academic stuff, which was agreed on, that nuclear physics, that's all fine. But if you start talking about Atlantis, that's not fine. That's a lot of nonsense. So, it is as it is, that we have like almost like two sides of society. We have people who say, this is what's real. This is what, scientists, academics, and have agreed on. This is what's been tested. This is what's been peer reviewed. This is real. This is how it is. And then we have the other people who are not satisfied with that, and they are whatever.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of people. Like, for instance, the guy I was telling you about who went over to Egypt and he looked at the damage on on the Sphinx, the erosion on the Sphinx, and he said it was water damage. Well, one of the guys who supposedly was debunking this, he said like this. He said he was speaking of that guy. He was a geologist. He said they sent how did he put it? They sent the little geologist over there to check it out, belittled it with that word, sent the little geologist. Oh, he was just a geologist. That was his words. He was just a geologist who looked at it. I'm like, well, who else supposed to be looking at stones and stuff, And then went on to, his proof was he went on, cited another guy who was a geologist. You see what I'm saying? They had roughly the same learning and stuff, right? So this one guy is just a geologist because he didn't say what he liked. Then the geologist like, oh, he's a geologist, and he says this is the case. So even when being presented with evidence, they kind of pick and choose who they want to listen to. You know what I'm saying? They both got the same qualifications, but in this one, he belittles them. And then the other one, he's supposed to listen to. You see what I'm saying?
Right, I get it. So some geology is better than other geology.
I guess so. Yeah.
You can trust one type of geologist, but not another.
Yes, I guess so.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's like the experts. What is it? You're more expert the further away you come. The further the expert travels or something, you're more expert. I don't know if you ever heard that one before.
All they know about it, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I heard a long time ago. I think it had something to do with a court case or something I was reading about. And they had an expert that came from their town, but they didn't want him. They wanted one to fly in from London because he traveled so much more distance. He was more expert because he came from so far.
Because he came further.
Yeah, because he came from further away. So he was more expert. And check this out. What else you got going on? I know last time I spoke with you, like I was telling people, we were talking about where does all the plastic go? And I know you were doing other things like after that. And I saw that you had some performances in a few places and stuff. Afterwards, care to talk about that? Matter of fact, I think I saw you in quite a few places doing live performances. Did you want to talk about that about the plastic?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, all of that's very important to me. I can't remember what we were talking about last time, but I have talked about my plastic, my song. Where does all the plastic go? And did I talk about the Ocean Aid project?
A little bit. You touched on it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, since I was last on your podcast, I have had a song called "Time for Ocean Aid," which I recorded over here in Portugal. And I've sent the recording to my friend Crumb. And Crumb's main claim to fame, if you like, is he once played synthesizer for Hawkwind. And he's had various other bands. In fact, he's got a new band called Star Rats. His band before was called the Moon Loonies. But Crumb is formerly of Hawkwind. And he's a synthesizer wizard. He really knows his stuff, his keyboards. Anyway, I sent Crumb my recording of Time for Ocean Aid, which was recorded here in Quinta do Conde in Portugal. And Crumb liked the song, and he put some synthesizer on it. And it's transformed the song. It's now it's gone from being kind of an acoustic folk song type protest song, which is what it is,
right,
to having like a kind of a space rock synth wave feel to it. And somebody else, called Daz, who's in his band as well, has constructed like a video for it. So it's kind of a pretty psychedelic video. So we have like a music video, psychedelic music video, Time for Ocean Aid, and that's out. But I'm following that with Mother Nature Rap, which I think I was talking about earlier. I've been filmed for Mother Nature Rap, and stop me if I'm basically repeating
No, that's okay.
myself.
Go ahead. Yeah.
But, I've been working with a Portuguese filmmaker, Pedro Augusto Almeida, and Pedro organized a day for me to be filmed in. So we went to the one studio. It's a studio, the Nimbo studio, which is near Setúbal here. And I was filmed in the studio. And so I've got like a microphone in front of me and the lighting on me, and I'm singing and rapping to the microphone. And then we went to somewhere else, went to this place out in the countryside called Portugal Sende. It's a co-working space. And there I was being filmed in like there's a lot of woodland there, forest, and there are clearings in the forest, and I'm filmed there, like rapping, and I'm dancing about, and basically I'm doing like what Pedro was saying. Steve, now if you can like dance a bit now, if you can, you know, come a bit more towards the camera, or if you can go over, I'm doing all that because like he's directing it, you know?
Right.
So I'm doing all this stuff. So anyway, they've got like a lot of footage of me in a studio. They've got a lot of footage of me in a forest dancing and rapping. Mm-hmm. And then we did some more like after dark, okay? And I've got lighting on me, there's trees behind me. And then we finished the whole thing with like, there's a video projection behind me. It was a psychedelic video. Mm-hmm. And I'm going like this, holding my arms out.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And then so basically like Pedro and his crew are editing together, you know, a music video for all this. And that's just called Mother Nature Rap. And it's me, in a way, like I felt kind of motivated to write a rap song. I've never done this before. And I thought, okay, I mean, rap music and hip hop music is so popular now that I thought I could kind of extend my audience a lot if I have like a song in that format.
Right.
So that's a totally a new project of mine. Mm-hmm. And everyone that knows about it thinks it's going to be massive. And of course, I'm hoping it's going to
yeah, definitely. Looking forward to it. It's
going to go viral. It's just, and it's going out on my birthday, which is the 21st of March, which is, I think we kind of chose that date because not only is it my birthday, but it's also the first day of spring. It's the vernal equinox. It's also the first day of Aries, which means basically that I was born in Aries. I was born the first day of Aries. Mm-hmm. And so those are just some little bits of information about it, but that was when it's going to be going out. So Mother Nature Rap is coming out the world, you know, it's coming out, it's being released, it's all happening on the 21st of March. And I don't know where it's going to lead, because I never know where anything's going to lead, really.
Exactly.
You know, you can have like ideas about what's going to be happening, and you have you can have a rough plan of how things are going to happen, but you never really know for sure. And my whole story of Tenerife is like that. Like, I knew Tenerife was a great place. I wanted to move there. I did move there, but I didn't know what I was going to find there, you know. And this pyramid you can see behind me, like I said earlier, I only found out about that having moved into this place, Playa de San Marcos. I went walkabout, I went down a little road and I found that. I thought, wow, look at this.
Incredible.
So, you know, there's always things you can find out. And there's always like kind of twists and turns and unexpected things which happen in life. So, you know, I try to go with the flow of how it's all happening, you know. And I put my own creative bits and pieces into it and think, well, okay, this is a good idea. Let's have a go at that. Let's do this. Let's investigate that, whatever it is. And then things then happen, you know.
It turns out, Steve, about this plastic. I was thinking about, ideally, I mean, if you had a magic wand and you could just wave it over everything, what would you want the outcome to be with plastic? Just stop using plastic altogether, or curtail its use? How do you see it happening? What would you like to happen?
I don't think it's possible for us to stop using plastic. I think all the people that are saying ban plastic, stop plastic, this doesn't make any sense, because almost, you know, most people in modern life today depend on plastic. Plastic is a huge part of our life. You know, I mean, I'm just looking around me now. I can see plastic where you are, Bryan, you know.
Oh, yes. My glasses. My frames, yeah.
I've got plastic glasses
yes.
on. You know, it's all over the place, you know. And it's like, we can't do without it. I'll see my computer. This is a plastic laptop computer I got.
Exactly.
And I got a microphone here on a plastic microphone stand. It's everywhere. And even if we just go into the health sector of life, you know, plastic is being used everywhere. Plastic is, if I go to the dentist, plastic is used in the dentist. We have plastic sheet put on me.
Yes.
And because of COVID, we have plastic gloves and a plastic mask and a plastic thing to go over my head.
Mm-hmm.
And all this plastic just to go to the dentist. And then all this stuff has to get thrown away. And then it's just everywhere. If I go to the shop, even if I take my own carrier bag, which is what I do, a reusable carrier bag,
Right.
It is impossible for me to buy all the items I want to buy without buying some plastic packaging. Some of the stuff is coming in plastic packaging, and it's in a plastic bottle, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You could say, all right, well, so okay, let's say I go to buy a bottle of vitamins, a vitamin supplement.
Mm-hmm. It
comes in a plastic bottle, and I could maybe shop around for a long time to find one that comes in a glass bottle, but for convenience sake, it's all right, I'll accept buying this one in a plastic bottle. I go to another part of the supermarket to buy something, and it comes in a plastic container. It's all this stuff, and you can argue, you can say, all right, I don't want this, it's in plastic, I want this out of the plastic, I bought my own bag, and you can do that, and I do that to some degree, and a lot of people are doing this to some degree, but it is still impossible, almost impossible, to live a normal life without using plastic. Is what I'm getting to.
Yeah. Would you ever want to go back to glass? I remember the world before plastic became widespread. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I can remember when you had like a milk float, you had a milkman, and he used to come around delivering pints of milk in pint bottles made of glass, right? And then these bottles went back, and then they, to be used again. And they also used to have like a man, where I lived in Wales, they had like a lorry came round with bottles of pop. I think you'd call it soda, like in America, like soda. And they came in glass bottles. So you could buy like lemonade or dandelion and burdock or cherryade. You buy this in a glass bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a lot of glass being used then, for containing drinks. And you could do that again today. Mm-hmm. And it is being done to some degree. And the fact that it's being done to some degree, what I think if we can reduce, I think that's important. I think if we can reduce the amount of plastic being used, this is really helpful. If we can get stuff back into glass, that's really helpful. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's possible for us to rule plastic out. I don't think it's possible for us to ban plastic and stop. I think we're stuck with plastic. Mm-hmm. But what we should do is we should dispose of the plastic responsibly. I think we should do that. I think we should recycle the plastic as much as we can. So that I can't recycle the plastic, but what I'm saying is if we can, like, the local authorities wherever we are, mm-hmm. and the local governments wherever we are, that if these people can make far more effort than they're currently doing to make sure that the plastic that is waste plastic now is actually recycled, that's a help. It's a big help. And I think that we can refuse plastic to some degree. As I say, we can't live without it, but we can refuse it to some degree. Like, so, say I go to the supermarket, I go to the grocery store, and I'm going to buy some stuff. And I went today actually, and there was a lady in front of me in the queue, mm-hmm. and the girl behind the cash desk gave her a plastic bag, which she accepted to put all of her shopping in. I had my cloth bag to put my shopping in. And I'm not saying I'm any better than the lady in front, because years ago, I used to do the same. I get to the till and they give me a plastic bag. So I had to make an effort. I had to make the effort to say, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to take my own reusable bag here. But, it is possible to do that. Is what I'm saying. So you can refuse it. You can say, I don't want the plastic bag that you're going to give me. I bought my own bag and I can put the things in it. That is something that you can do. And the more people that do that, the better. So that's going to make a difference. Mm-hmm. But there's so much plastic, I don't think, we can do without it now.
No turning back, eh?
You know, it's like even if I'm picking this computer up here, I'm like, this computer, this laptop computer, I can see that the keyboard section of it and it's plastic. Exactly. I can see that the lead going into it is plastic. Like, can you make a computer out of something else? I don't know.
Like steel and wood, like metal and wood.
Steel and wood, maybe. I don't know. Maybe you could, but
yeah, I don't know either. I kind of want to see that. A wooden laptop.
yeah. Glass, that would be interesting. A glass laptop, so you could see all the workings inside. You could see all, but then maybe not. Because I'm just thinking the wiring. The wire is usually covered in plastic.
Yeah.
What do we do about the wires?
Rubber. I guess we go back to that paper insulation again. Rubber and paper insulation. You remember the old cloth wires? I don't know if you remember those. Maybe back to that. Man. Hey, check this out, Steve. I won't hold you up any longer than what I have already. And as usual, at the end of these podcasts, I'd like to ask you, do you have any advice, words of wisdom, anything that you'd like to leave folks with, last word?
Well, I think my advice is to take action, for everybody to take action in any way they can, what they feel they can do. Like I'm saying, like I take action in ways that the things that I can do. Like I said, I can take like a cloth bag to the shop to do my shopping. I don't use a plastic bag anymore. So that's a little bit of action that I've taken. But we can all take, action that suits us in our lives, and I just think that the more of us that do anything that we can to help, it's worth doing, and even just thinking about stuff, thinking about what we're doing, because a lot of us are not thinking about this stuff. I mean, I was just thinking then, I was talking to you about, can you make a laptop that isn't made of plastic? And we're talking about, well, maybe you could make one with wood, maybe you could make one with steel, I don't know, maybe you can, maybe we could even get one of those, but there's not enough being done. There's a lot of us, myself included, are just going along with life as it's presented. And we're not thinking, can we do this a different way? Can we, could be made out of something else? Can we, and that's like rethinking. And I think rethinking is important. We have to rethink what we're doing. So, but I think the taking action is my main advice, my main thing that I want people to do is to take action. And even this, you can see behind me where I am, it was in Tenerife. That was a result of action. I decided I was going to go to Tenerife. And it was a huge change of life for me to go there. And then when I got there, that was like a new world for me. And so I had to find my way around there. I had to try and learn the language there. I had to find out about how you could get around the island. I had to find out a lot of stuff. And so it was all new for me. But it was the result of taking action. It was the result of me saying to myself, Steve, Tenerife is great. You want to live there. Well, go there, And so I did. And lots of things which happened in my life are the results of action. For example, I just told you about Mother Nature rap. I've never written a rap song in my life,
right?
And I just thought, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write a rap song because I'm so concerned about the environment. I'm going to have to put this in a format that will reach a lot of people. So let's do this. So I've done that, and I think that's it. I just think if we can take action, that's what's important in whatever we feel. Like, what I mean by that is because I'm a singer-songwriter and I've written a lot of songs, and I thought to myself, well, let's write a rap song. So it's basically the same. It's the same creative energy being used. It's just like it's a different format for the song, but I've done that. So that was an action. And that's it, really. I think that's it. Take action.
Bringing awareness is a way to take action.
Bringing awareness, and do that as well.
Yes.
That's what we're doing that now. I mean, we've just been talking about all kinds of stuff here. I can't remember what we've touched on, but we talked about pyramids and Atlantis.
Oh yeah, all kinds of stuff. And have one more thing for you before you left. One thing I've been doing online, I've been answering questions, particularly like in science, when people asking, do you think there's life else, elsewhere out there in the universe? A lot of people, when they look at the amount of stuff and how big space is, they said, well, there has to be some other kind of life out there. And me, I agree with them, but I intentionally like to go the opposite way, because my reasoning is that if you believe that life is abundant elsewhere, I think you'll be less inclined to care about here. So if I can get people to think that perhaps we're unique and we're the only ones here, maybe they'll see how precious this planet is and maybe want to take care of it a little bit better. But yeah, as long as I think people think like we got another life and there's life everywhere else, there's a hell with this planet. There's more of them, But if they think this is precious, that there's nothing else, like I said, maybe they want to take care of this a little bit better. So that's the kind of like the trip I'm on now. When I go around talking to people, trying to get people to think that this place is precious. There's not any more of them. This is the only one we got. We got to take care of this one. So that's the mindset I'm on. So.
Bryan, I think that's brilliant. And I agree with you. And I also think that's kind of an extension to that, as I think about, is there life after death, or is this only one life we've got? And is there God or is there no God? Or what? Like, I can think that if this is only one life and there is no afterlife and there is no God and this is it, we should be thinking, wow, what an amazing life we've got here.
Yes.
That should make this life even more precious, more remarkable, more something to be, to care about and to enjoy and to explore and to be thankful for and all this. But in some ways I can see it like, if we don't think about an afterlife and we don't believe in God and we don't believe in anything more than this is one life we've got, that should make us absolutely so, astounded and so thankful and so, oh, look at this amazing life, even each second that we're in,
Yes.
Like, oh, wow, I have this second that I'm in and I have all this around me and I can see all these things and I can hear all these things and this is all so incredible. Oh, wow. That's how it should be,
Yes.
Without any belief system, without any afterlife, without any God or any religion. Each moment that we have is incredible,
Yes.
and I think that, and I think that, I came to that like thinking about what you were saying. If we think, oh yes, yeah, out there's all these other places and there's all this life, and if you think about like afterlife, you think, well, in my afterlife I can go out there, and so maybe it doesn't really matter about planet Earth, and
Exactly.
it does matter.
Yes.
I think that, each moment and each thing, and that's something else I can think about, each little part of this planet Earth we're living in, and all this stuff around me right now, like, this plastic mouse here, and these glasses, and my cap, and this mic, and this screen I'm looking at, all of this is all amazing. Like,
Yes.
How did all this stuff get here? And now that it's here, we should be enjoying it. It's like, wow, and I'm talking to you and you're in America and I'm over here in Portugal. And this is really happening at this moment in time. Oh, wow, isn't that incredible? So yeah, I can think like that.
And Steve, once again, where can people find your work and your books and your songs, and your videos?
The easiest way to find me is steveandrews.info. Steve Andrews or what do you call it? Period, you call it in America. Steve
Right.
Andrews, period, info. And if you go there, and that's my landing page, and then it will also take you to bardofely.org, which is my Bard of Ely site. And those are like good starting points.
Yes.
And I was also talking about atlan.org for Atlantis, and my friend, Professor Santos, that was his site, atlan.org. And was there anything else?
Let's see. Oh, no, I think that was about it. Let me see.
My book. Yeah. my book, Saving Mother Ocean. Like
Yeah.
if you just Google Saving Mother Ocean, Steve Andrews, you
Right.
find it. And
Yeah,
it's
we'll
on
go
Amazon.
through. I'm sorry, we'll go through and put all these links in the description for you, so people can find you and find your work.
Yeah, and the other thing is, Bryan, is that, see, when I got involved in all this, trying to find out about the Guanches and the pyramids,
Mhm.
I found I ended up actually in a film called Savages in Foreign Lands, because Raphael Biss was a film director, and he was making a film that I just gave the title of, about the Canary Islands and about the mystery of the Guanches and about the pyramids. And so he interviewed me. And we also went out to some of the sites. He went to Santa Barbara that I was talking to you about. So I got to show him the pyramids there. And he got to see the pyramid behind me here in the Camino de la Suerte. And Raphael became a very good friend of mine. And I was in his film. And that was something else that happened, you know, when as a result of me trying to find out about the Guanches and the pyramids of Tenerife. And I'm very, very proud to be in that film. It was also, I think, you know, part of that film was putting forward the idea that the Romans brought the Guanches there.
Yeah, and you know, it's a beautiful thing when we go on these adventures. You never really know where they're going to take you. You may have some idea in your mind, but when you start, you know, taking those steps, the journey that you're on, and just keeps leading you to cool places that you probably never even imagined that you'd be going.
Oh, yeah, very, very much so. You know, my life in Tenerife was like that a lot. You know, I didn't really know what I was going to find out next. I remember thinking and saying that, you know, when I lived there, that I could lead a whole life living in Tenerife and still be finding out more and more and finding more stuff to do, because even though it's quite a small island, there's just so much there, you know, and there's so much that people don't know about. You know, when I say the people, I mean just, you know, tourists that go there, because the tourists that go there usually just see the beaches and the bars and all of that down the south. They don't see all this other amazing stuff in Tenerife, but there are like cloud forests, and there are all types of different mountains and pine forests, and there were like, there was even like a cave community, this place called Chinamada, where there are, I think, 32 houses, and they're all actually caves. They're not just caves, like rough caves like they used to be, but they've been built up so they've got like maybe a wall and maybe a front door and a path or something, and they've got electricity, but otherwise they're caves. And so all the people who live in Chinamada are living in caves. And that was a place I found out about. And I went there, and you know, it's amazing.
Yeah. Not trying to put blame anywhere, but it seems like I think you were telling me that when tourists come there, they kind of send them to the nice area where the temperature is pretty good, you know. So maybe if they stop, I don't know, directing people that way and started directing them all over the place, maybe they get to see more of these things that you're talking about that they don't get to see.
Oh yeah, sure. You know, most of the tourists get sent down to the south to the sunshine, the beaches, and the bars, and they miss out on so much. And something else that, you know, I just had to talk about this was the dragon trees of Tenerife. The dragon trees became like something that I discovered again when I went to Tenerife. And I remember the first dragon tree I saw. I was with my friend Priscilla Hernandez, who was the friend that I'd been talking to before I ever went to Tenerife. She lived there, and I went over to visit like on a short holiday, and I was with Priscilla, and we saw this dragon tree. And I said, "Wow, look at that! What is that?" And she said, "It's a dragon tree, Steve." And I'd never seen one before. But
I've never heard of it. I'll have to put no, I've never heard of them. I have to put a picture up here for people, other people like me who haven't seen it. I'll make sure I add one to this video. Could you describe it real quick, though? What's it about?
Yeah. The dragon tree, the dragon tree, by the way, is actually in my book, Herbs of the Sun, Moon, and Planets, because the dragon tree was thought of as a herb of Mars. Okay, but the dragon tree, it's, if you cut it, the resin, the sap that comes out when it dries, it goes red. So they call that dragon's blood. But the tree is like, it's just so weird. Like it just goes up and then it branches out and it's got like these really big spiky leaves. And there's one called the Drago Millenario, which is in a town called Ica de los Vinos, okay? And that dragon tree there is believed to be 1,000 years old. And it's called the Drago Millenario. Some people have said it's maybe 3,000 years old, but however old it is, it's old, it's big, and it's really impressive. I remember seeing that tree, and it was, I know I say wow a lot. It was like, wow, it's huge tree.
Oh, wow.
It's incredible.
Do they have any uses for that tree? Any medicinal, or they use a building or anything?
Yeah, there were uses for. I mean, I've heard that the Guanches used to make shields out of it, and I heard that. Oh, this was unfortunate that a lot of the dragon trees got cut down when the islands got colonized because they could use it in making varnish. They used the dragon's blood and
that red, the red liquid in there. Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I've also heard that it's good for gum disease. You can use dragon trees, but so those are the uses. But otherwise, I mean, it's used today as just an ornamental plant. If you go to Tenerife, there are far more dragon trees growing in gardens and parks than growing in the wild. It's a rare, it's an endangered plant in the wild now, but people grow them in gardens. I'm over here in Portugal. I went to Lisbon, and I go in a park there, and it's a dragon tree. Oh, wow, there's a dragon tree. So what I'm saying is that dragon trees have been planted in parks and gardens in many parts of the world now, and that they are actually surviving mostly because people are doing that, because they've been rendered very, very rare in the wild.
Right. You know, that's excuse me, reminiscent of the big cats. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think Texas is supposedly have more pet big cats, than there are like in the wild.
Oh,
yeah, they have them for pets.
It's going that way. That a lot of like species are safer in human cultivation or captivity than they are living in the natural environment.
Yeah, sad but true. Yeah. Yeah, definitely sad but true. And Steve, once again, thank you so much for agreeing to do this podcast. Let me say goodbye to everybody. Be right back with you. All right. In one moment. All right. Everybody, it's the end of another podcast and stuff. Once again, thank you guys for joining us. Don't forget to check out our previous YanBar Podcast guests. And always remember that the YanBar Podcast is the place where you make it happen. Once again, my name is Bryan Barcelo, host of this episode, along with Steve Andrews, the Bard of Ely. Steve, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bryan. It's been a real pleasure being here and talking to you about all this amazing stuff.
You're the best, Steve. Thank you. Peace, everybody. Yeah.